I never thought I'd be that guy, the one who finds out his wife's been lying to him for months, but here I am. We just come back from a week-long honeymoon, the kind that should have been pure joy, but instead, I was already on edge. Something felt off from the start. Little things I brushed aside, like her phone buzzing constantly, or her slipping out of bed at odd hours. She'd always say she was working late or meeting up with friends, but I had a sinking feeling I couldn't shake. It all hit me like a punch to the gut when I found her phone. I'd been suspicious, so I snuck a peek while she was in the shower. That's when I saw the messages. Not just flirtatious, not just "hey, I miss you" stuff. No, it was full-blown conversations with her boss, call him Mark. They were planning secret meetings, talking about getting away together. My stomach clenched tight as I scrolled, feeling my skin crawl. I could see photos, too, screenshots of hotel receipts, a few with hotel names I recognized, dates that matched our honeymoon. I sat there on the bathroom floor, trembling. My hands were cold, my heart pounding like a drum. How long had this been going on? I felt betrayed, honestly gutted. I'd trusted her, told her everything about my life, and she'd been lying right in front of me all along. I wanted to yell, to scream, but I just sat there numb. The evidence was right there, screenshots, hotel names, the timestamps. It wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. I got up slowly, trying to breathe through the rush of anger and heartbreak. I didn't want to wake her up just yet, so I went back to our room and stared at the ceiling. The room, once full of love and anticipation, now felt like a trap. I kept thinking about how she had been gone from our honeymoon so many nights, lying about her whereabouts, hiding her phone. She'd been hiding this affair, and I'd been blind. That's when I saw the first red flag, the one I ignored at the time. She'd always been secretive about her phone, kept it close, never let me near it. I thought she was just cautious, but now I see it was something more. I remember her brushing off my questions, telling me I was paranoid. She'd always have an excuse, a quick change of subject, or she'd call me insecure. Now I see she was cultivating her lies to perfection. The worst part, I could feel the betrayal sinking into my bones. My trust was shattered. All the little things that seemed innocent, her late nights, her evasive answers, her secretive glances, those were signs I'd missed or dismissed. I'd always been a little naive about her, thinking she was perfect. Turns out she'd been living a double life, and I was the fool. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling back to the photos, her voice in my head telling me she loved me. I wondered how I'd missed it all, how I'd been so blind. I felt a cold rage bubbling inside, not just at her but at myself. Why did I ignore the signs? Why did I trust so blindly? By morning, I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just keep pretending everything was fine. The pieces were too clear now. I needed to get more proof, figure out exactly how deep this went, and plan my next move. But at that moment, all I could see was her. Face smiling, lying, betraying everything we had. I felt my fists tighten into fists, my jaw clench. This wasn't just about catching her, it was about what I was going to do about it. The betrayal had cut so deep I could taste it, bitter, metallic. Our future, once so bright and promising, now felt like a lie, a cruel joke. I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without paying some kind of price. I stood there, staring out the window, my mind racing. I'd been naive once, but I was done with that. This was just the beginning. The plan was forming, even if I wasn't ready to admit what it was yet. All I knew was she'd pushed me to the edge, and I wasn't going to let her get away with this. Not without a fight. After that night, everything changed. I couldn't look at her the same way, not without feeling a fist of anger tighten inside me. I knew I had to act, but I also knew I couldn't rush in blindly. I needed more proof, a clear plan before I confronted her. Otherwise, I might say something I'd regret, and honestly, I didn't trust myself to keep calm if she tried to deny everything. So I started digging. I didn't want to seem obvious, so I kept my movements cautious. I installed a keylogger on her phone, just enough to catch new messages or calls without her noticing. I also checked her bank statements and hotel bookings. Sure enough, there were more receipts, hotel stays, dinners, secret rendezvous, all during our honeymoon. The dates lined up perfectly with the messages I'd seen. The evidence was stacking up, and every new piece of info made my stomach churn worse. One thing I couldn't ignore was her behavior. Her phone was glued to her hand 24/7 now, always in her lap, always hiding her screen when I got close. Her excuses became more strained. "You're overthinking. It's just work," or "I'm tired, leave me alone." But I'd seen enough. I knew she was hiding something. The lies had become more desperate, more obvious. One evening, I caught her in a lie. She said she had a meeting with her boss at the office, but I saw her phone ping with a message from him. I waited until she was out of the room, then checked her messages. Sure enough, more flirtatious nonsense, plans to meet again, even talk of closing the deal. The words cut through me. I felt my jaw tight, my fists clenched so hard my nails dug into my palms. I knew I couldn't keep silent anymore. I had to confront her, but I wanted to do it on my terms, something that would make her see I was serious. I started to craft a plan, a way to make her realize the damage she'd caused, and to make her pay. One thing was clear: this wasn't just about catching her cheating. It was about her realizing that I knew, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I remembered the little things she'd said, how she'd dismissed my concerns, how she'd brushed me off when I asked about her late nights. I'd ignored the warnings, but now they all flashed back at once. I knew I had to take control, make her face the consequences. I decided to gather all the evidence I needed, then confront her in a way that would shake her to her core. Next, I started thinking about the revenge, not some messy, vindictive scheme, something precise and calculated. I wanted her to feel the sting of betrayal, to see her carefully constructed lies crumble. I planned to expose her, not just to her but publicly, in a way that she'd never forget. But first I needed her to believe I was still clueless, still trusting. That's when the idea came to me. I'd pretend to be unaware, keep her close, then strike when she least expected. In the meantime, I kept my cool. I didn't let her see how much I knew, but I kept a close eye on her every move. I felt my pulse racing every time she left her phone unattended, every time she slipped up. I reminded myself, she's the one who's been lying, not me. I decided I'd give her a little rope, enough to hang herself, then snatch her down when the moment was right. The plan was set, but it still felt surreal. I kept replaying that night in my head, the photos, her secret messages, her fake innocence. It was like waking up from a nightmare. I'd trusted her with everything, and she'd betrayed me so thoroughly I wondered if I ever really knew her. But I wasn't going to let her win, not without a fight. Tomorrow, I'd put the last pieces in place. I'd wait for her to slip up one more time, then confront her with everything. And when she finally realized I knew, I'd make sure she understood that her little secret was about to blow up in her face. Because I wasn't just going to walk away from this, she was going to regret ever crossing me. And there was one thing I was certain of. Once I was done, she'd never be able to lie to me again. The day I decided to execute my plan, I could feel the tension in my chest like a tight band. My mind kept replaying her every move, how she'd become more nervous, more on edge. She was still acting normal, but I knew better. I'd seen enough to know when someone was cornered. It was only a matter of time before her defenses cracked. I kept myself busy during the day, pretending to go about my usual routine, but my eyes were glued to her. Every time she reached for her phone, I was ready. I even made a little show of seeming relaxed, but inside I was steeling myself for the moment of truth. I'd already compiled my evidence, screenshots, hotel receipts, her secret messages, and I was ready to present everything. At dinner, she kept glancing toward her phone, her hands trembling slightly and her face was tense. I decided it was time. I leaned forward, fixing her with a steady stare. "Hey, I've been thinking," I said casually, "and I want to talk about something that's been bothering me." Her eyes flicked up, trying to hide her anxiety. "What's up?" she asked, voice a little too innocent. I took a deep breath, feeling my palms sweat. This was it. "I found your phone yesterday. The messages, the hotel receipts, they're all evidence that you've been lying to me about your whereabouts, about everything." Her face paled. She froze for a moment, then tried to brush it off. "You're overreacting. It's nothing, just work stuff." "No, it's not. I've seen the screenshots. I know about Mark. About the hotel stays during our honeymoon." I saw her cheeks flush, her hands clenched into fists on her lap. "How long has this been going on?" She looked away, silent for a long moment. Then she muttered, "It was just a stupid mistake. I didn't mean for it to go this far." I shook my head, feeling a mixture of rage and disappointment. A mistake. You lied to me for months, kept secrets, and I was supposed to just accept that. You're telling me this just now, after all the trust I gave you. She looked guilty, but her voice was defensive. I was confused. I didn't know what to say. Bullshit, I snapped. You knew exactly what you were doing. You thought you could hide it forever, didn't you? She stared down at her plate, silent. I could see her trembling. I knew I had to push harder, make her feel the weight of everything she'd done. This was the moment I'd been planning for. I'm done pretending, I said coldly. You've been cheating, you've been lying, and I swear I'm not going to let this slide. I pushed back from the table, feeling my jaw tight. I want the truth now, everything, every lie, every secret. Or I swear it's over. Her eyes flicked up finally, filled with tears. Please don't do this. I love you. I was stupid. I didn't want to hurt you. I scoffed, feeling a bitter laugh rise in my throat. You don't love me. You loved your boss, your lies, your secret life more than you loved our marriage. That's what I see now. In that moment, I knew I had to do something to make her understand this wasn't a passing mistake. I needed her to realize the depth of her betrayal. The plan had been for her to think I was still in the dark, to make her admit everything on her own. But now I was done waiting. I reached into my pocket, pulling out my phone. I've got everything, I said quietly. The screenshots, the receipts, the messages, I'm saving all of it. And I swear if I find even one more lie, I'm going to make sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are. Her face crumpled as she realized I wasn't bluffing. Please, she begged, voice trembling. Can we just talk about this? I don't want to lose everything. I looked at her, cold and distant. You already did, you lost my trust, and now I'm going to take back what's mine. I paused, feeling the weight of my decision. You should leave today, and don't bother trying to contact me again until you're ready to face what you've done. She looked at me with wide, tearful eyes, then stood up slowly. This isn't over, she whispered. Oh, I think it is, I said, my voice low and steady. The moment you step out that door, it's all over, and I'll be waiting for you to realize what you've thrown away. As she gathered her things and left, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. The plan was in motion, and she had no idea what I'd done. I sat down, taking a deep breath, my mind racing through the next steps. This was only the beginning. I'd planned everything carefully, and now I was ready to finally close this chapter on my terms. I knew she'd come back, but when she did, everything would be different. I'd make sure of that. And as I looked at the empty doorway, I couldn't help but wonder, what would she do next? The silence in the apartment was deafening after she left. I sat alone at the table, my hands cold and sweaty, feeling every nerve in my body buzzing with adrenaline and rage. The moment I'd been waiting for, the confrontation, had gone exactly how I'd planned, or so I thought. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the start, not the end. I had gone through her phone, her emails, her bank statements. I'd even set up a small hidden camera near her work laptop, just in case she tried to do something stupid. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. She'd been lying, cheating, and hiding from the truth for months, and she had no idea I'd uncovered it all. Her world was about to turn upside down, and I wasn't going to hold back. My mind kept circling back, replaying the moments I'd just experienced. The way her face crumpled when I showed her I knew, the pleading in her voice, the way she looked at me now like I was the villain. Honestly, I'd never seen her so vulnerable. It was almost satisfying in a sick way, knowing I held all the cards. Now I was planning my next move. I knew she'd try to come back, maybe even beg for forgiveness. That was predictable, but I wanted her to feel the full weight of her betrayal, not just a quick apology and everything goes back to normal. No, I wanted her to understand she had crossed a line from which there was no return. I sat on the couch, pulling out my phone, and started drafting a message. It was simple, cold, to the point. We're done. Don't contact me again. I've seen enough. Your lies are over, and I want nothing to do with you anymore. I paused. This was the moment to make it clear. I wasn't leaving any room for doubt, but I wasn't finished. I had one more idea, a final act that would make her regret everything, and I could feel my adrenaline spike again. I decided I'd send her a secret recording I'd made earlier, the one I kept recording from her phone during our last conversation. I wanted her to hear herself pleading, the desperation in her voice. I wanted her to realize how deep she'd fallen and that I'd caught her every step of the way. I made sure the recording was clear, then attached it to the message I was about to send. "This is just a reminder of everything you've done," I typed, "and I hope it helps you remember that actions have consequences." I pressed send, then leaned back, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and emptiness. The phone buzzed immediately with her reply. I hesitated for a second before opening it. Her message was full of apologies, promises to change, begging me to give her another chance. It made me laugh bitterly, as if I'd fall for that. I knew better. I'd planned well enough to know that her remorse was fake, momentary. She'd betrayed me, and now she was trying to manipulate her way back in. That's when I realized I needed a clean break. No more games, no more excuses. I had to finalize this. I got up, walked over to the door, and grabbed my set of keys. I'd already packed a bag earlier, just in case. Now I was ready to leave this toxic environment behind. I turned back towards the apartment, took a deep breath, and grabbed the last thing I needed, the bundle of her clothes I'd gathered from the laundry earlier. I didn't want her coming back and pretending nothing had happened. I went to the front door, took the keys in my hand, and hesitated for a moment. This was it, no turning back. I slipped the keys into an envelope and wrote her key on it. Then I placed it in the mailbox outside. Done. I looked around the apartment one last time, feeling a strange sense of finality. It was a brutal, harsh ending to what I thought was a happy marriage, but I knew I couldn't stay. This betrayal had shattered everything I believed in. The trust was gone, replaced with cold, hard resolve. As I closed the door behind me, I felt a strange sense of liberation. The weight I'd been carrying for months finally lifted. I was leaving behind the lies, the secrets, and the pain. Some part of me was devastated, sure, but another part felt relief. I had taken control. I had cut the cord. Walking away, I knew that my life from now on would be different. She was no longer part of it. And honestly, I didn't care what she thought or said anymore. I was done chasing shadows. Now I had to start rebuilding without her. The first step, filing for divorce first thing tomorrow. That was my concrete move, the one that signaled I was serious. Because here's the thing, some betrayals can't be repaired. And in my case, I'd learned that the hard way. My takeaway, respect yourself enough to walk away from someone who lies and cheats. Nobody deserves that kind of betrayal. And sometimes the only way to truly reclaim your life is to cut the toxic out completely. The next morning, I woke up feeling a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. The decision was made. The keys were in that mailbox and her number was blocked. I'd already scheduled a lawyer appointment for later that day. I knew I had to move quickly, to finalize everything before she got a chance to spin her story or try to manipulate me again. The moment I stepped out of the apartment, I felt the cold air hit my face, sharp, uncompromising. It was like the world was finally giving me a breather after months of suffocation. My chest felt lighter, even if my stomach still churned with residual anger. I'd done what I needed to do, and now all I could do was follow through. At the lawyer's office, I laid out everything I'd uncovered, the hotel receipts, the messages, the recordings. She listened carefully, her brow furrowed, asking questions I already had answers for. I wanted to make it clear that I wasn't just leaving out of anger. I had proof, and I was ready to fight for my rights. While waiting, I couldn't help but reflect on how utterly blind I'd been, how I'd ignored the small red flags. Her secretive phone habits, her evasiveness when I asked about her schedule, the way she'd avoid eye contact. I'd let her manipulate me for months, thinking I was overreacting. Now I saw how deeply she'd betrayed me. The lawyer handed me the paperwork to file for divorce. I signed with a shaky hand but a steady mind. It was final. I was done. I looked at her face on the court documents and felt nothing but cold resolve. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my dignity. Driving home afterward, I felt a sense of clarity. I'd spent so much time trying to hold onto a relationship that was already dead. The betrayal had been the final nail in the coffin. Now I was just cleaning up the wreckage and moving forward. The heartbreak still lingered, sure, but it was fading fast. Later that evening, I sat in my apartment pouring a drink, feeling the weight of the past lift off my shoulders. I knew I had to start rebuilding my life, trust in myself, in my instincts, in what I deserved. I thought about her, wondered how she'd react, but it didn't matter anymore. The only thing that mattered was me. That night I finally allowed myself to breathe. I let go of the anger, the betrayal, the pain. I knew I'd be okay. Hell, I already was. She was part of my history now. I would learn from this, grow stronger. And someday I might even forgive her, though I'd never forget. But the truth was, I'd learned one vital lesson. Never ignore the warning signs. Never let someone's lies slide because you think it's easier or because you love them too much. If someone betrays your trust, they don't get a second chance. Because real respect starts with respecting yourself enough to walk away. And I finally did. Weeks passed, and life started to settle into a new rhythm. The apartment was empty except for my belongings, and I felt the strange quietness of having everything I owned in one place. No more secrets, no more lies. I'd finally cut out what was toxic. It wasn't easy. There were nights when memories of her snuck in, and I'd catch myself staring at the door wondering if she'd come back, trying to explain, trying to fix what she'd broken. But I'd learned my lesson. Some betrayals are irreparable, and the only way forward is to leave the past behind. The divorce was finalized without much fuss. The judge signed the papers and I handed over the keys, my final act of reclaiming what was mine. I had taken control, set boundaries, and refused to let her manipulate me anymore. The sense of closure was almost surreal. I'd gone through hell, but I was finally free. I started focusing on myself. I hit the gym like a man possessed, pumping iron, feeling the strength return to my body. I started reconnecting with friends I'd drifted away from, realizing how much I had neglected my own happiness for years while trying to hold on to a marriage that was already dead. I even took a trip alone, just to remind myself I could be happy without someone constant in my life. Looking back, I saw how the red flags had been there from day one. Her secretiveness, her evasiveness, the way she dismissed my concerns. I'd ignored those warnings, blinded by love or maybe denial. But now I understood that trusting someone doesn't mean ignoring your gut. It means listening to that small voice that's always trying to tell you something's wrong. As I moved forward, I kept the lesson close. Respect yourself enough to walk away when someone shows you they don't value you. Because betrayal isn't just about the act itself, it's about what it teaches you about your worth. I realized I deserved honesty and loyalty, not lies and betrayal. I don't think I'll ever forget what happened, but I'll also never let it define me. This experience hardened me, sure, but it also made me better, stronger, more aware. I learned the importance of boundaries, of self-respect, and the power of walking away when someone crosses the line. So, if you're reading this and you're in a similar situation, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the red flags. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away, even when your heart is heavy. Because at the end of the day, your own happiness and dignity are worth more than any betrayal. And that's what I did. I took my life back piece by piece, and I've never been happier,